Hey, welcome back to Well, That's Interesting. I'm so glad we're back to this kind of stuff edition. Today is episode 234. Another day, another parasite in a person's brain, and Florida man's carnivore diet leads to his hands seeping cholesterol. My friends, as we approach the extremely rare podcast milestone of a 5-year anniversary in July, I could say without a doubt, if you're a long-time listener, that you and I have been through many an episode about parasites. And I have the jaw-dropping numbers to prove it. I took a meander through the show's Google Drive, which is home to every episode's notes, and did a search for that wonderful word, parasite. Turns out, we've talked about these creatures in some capacity, from infecting animals to unsuspecting humans, at least 49 times. This is a podcast that comes out once a week, which means if we were to line up those episodes consecutively, at least one entire year out of those 5 has been dedicated solely to this topic. But don't worry. I have great news. The magical world of parasitism has more to offer. In the first half of the show, we'll be heading on over to Boston, Massachusetts, home to the cream pie, Fenway Park, and now what's known as case number 5-2025 in the February issue of the New England Journal of Medicine. If this already sounds fun, just you wait. This first half of the show is actually going to be a little interactive, as I'll be asking you kindly to grab something to draw with, and what I'd like you to create is the outline of a human body. Kind of what you see at a crime scene in Law & Order. And what we're going to do with this outline is fill in the empty space as the story unfolds and the symptoms appear. And this story begins with a strange burning sensation in the patient's feet. So what we're going to do in this instance is color in the feet. By the end of this half of the show, that figure will be stuffed to the gills, because those symptoms, which we will get into, will accumulate and creep ever so slowly up to the head. We will meet this patient. We will traverse through her travel history and the meals she consumed on a 3-week vacation overseas. We will be making several hospital visits afterwards, each leaving her empty-handed as to why in the holy hell it felt as if her nervous system was on fire. Then, we will meet the final team of neurologists and doctors who resorted to one last painful test. We will talk about that test. We will get into the microscopic evidence of what, or rather who, was behind all of this. Then after the break, we'll be moving on from a classic topic to an absolute first on this show. And honestly, I hope it never happens to anyone, anywhere ever again, but unfortunately it probably will. If you love odd medical news, and I know you do, that's why you're here, you may have seen headlines like this back in January. Florida man's carnivore diet leads to hand seepage. You heard me. Florida is a gift. It is a gift no one wanted and can't return. God bless it. But we will meet this patient. We will traverse through his meals. And the menu will leave you, at the very least, nauseous as fuck. We will talk about his hands, the amount of cholesterol spewing forth from his pores, and how he's not the first person this happened to. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that for sure. In the meantime, hi, I'm Jill Chacha. And if this is your first time listening, welcome to the flock, my delicious business goose. To begin, I'm going to ask you to whip out that fabulous line drawing of the human body for me, and with it, we're going to reenact the travel itinerary of our 30-year-old soon-to-be patient hailing from Boston, Massachusetts. According to a fun letter submitted by Dr. Carlos A. Portales Castillo and his colleagues to the New England Journal of Medicine, our young lady was about to have the time of her life, in more ways than one. Let's start off with what most of us can only dream of. Spending a week in Bangkok, Thailand, touring the city and eating various street foods that are so delicious. It would be just cruel to list them here for any hungry listeners out there. But screw it, I'm going to do it anyway. She may have enjoyed some sam tum, or papaya salad, made with shredded green papaya, peanuts, tomatoes, and a lime chili dressing. Perchance there was a tad of mu ping, or grilled pork skewers, marinated in a flavorful blend of herbs and spices. for the love of God, there might have been a cow new mam wang, or a mango sticky rice topped with coconut milk. Alas, we can only hope. But from what we do know, Dr. C went on to note that no raw food was eaten in Bangkok. But soon, however, our whirlwind traveler was about to make up for it. Quote, during the next 5 days, she was in Tokyo, Japan, where she spent most of her time in the hotel and ate several meals of sushi. During the last 10 days of the trip, she was on vacation in Hawaii, where she swam in the ocean several times and frequently ate both salad and sushi. End quote. My friends, floating around this side of the world for 3 weeks sounds delightful as fuck. And for 99.9% of us, it would be. But that's not why you're tuning in. Let's talk about that itty-bitty percentage that now officially includes our traveler turned patient. Let's get into it. Join me, will you, back in Massachusetts, where shortly after her return to the mainland, our young lady began to struggle with truly bizarre sensations in her feet, or what medical professionals call dysesthesia, and what verywellhealth.com has transformed into a delightful graphic. So please, after filling in the feet of your human outline, please pick up your phone. Head on over to today's post over at the old social media stuffs, and you shall see a colorful list of what people experience with this condition, including burning, tingling, prickling, crawling, electric fucking shocks, and general pain. Now, what you don't see here are the wide range of underlying conditions that can cause them. According to resources.healthgrades.com, it's basically a roulette wheel that includes nerve damage, strokes, spinal cord injuries, autoimmune disease and disorders, infections, medications like chemotherapy and antidepressants, and or psychological factors like good old anxiety and stress. For 2 goddamn days, our patient endured this foot pain before stumbling into one of 3 emergency rooms, all in hopes to figure out which of these the roulette ball would land on. Now, Dr. C in the gang's letter did not name the first hospital because snitches get stitches. And of all people, I would assume it would be a fellow doctor who'd be able to do the stabby and the suture. So, let's talk about what we do know went down in what we're going to call Hospital A. Our patient told the staff here the burning sensation in her feet had progressed to her legs, and it was exacerbated by light touch. So please, if you will, fill in them legs. Now, she tried ibuprofen, but it didn't do shit, and the new symptom of fatigue that topped off the shit cake she assumed to be jet lag. So, how you want to represent fatigue and light touch, that's up to you, and feel free to upload your artistic rendering to some socials and tag me. I cannot wait to see what you beautiful sickos come up with. Speaking of results, despite numerous pokes and prods, the medical staff could find no cause. Her vitals were average. The results of blood tests on her kidneys came back A-OK. Electrolytes and glucose levels were fine, and her white blood cell count was snug in the middle, 8,600 per microliter. And for context, 3,900 to 11,000 is usual. They even tested for Lyme disease, which came back negative. The only blip was a slight increase in something that may sound familiar to you if you joined us during any of the other 49 times we've covered parasites. My rosy-cheeked business goose. Our patient's eosinophil count was 870 per microliter, about double what you find in the usual range of someone in good health, 0 to 450. Now, a quick reminder, because that's always handy, eosinophils are one of our best friends in the sphere of internal best friends that help keep our asses alive. They're one of 3 types of white blood cells that prevent foreign organisms from growing inside other cells. AKA, these are the MI6 agents that protect you from becoming a host. Quote, when an unfamiliar organism or particle enters your body, your white blood cells divide into special troops to locate and destroy the invader before it causes harm. Each type of white blood cell undergoes specialized training before leaving your bone marrow and traveling to your tissues, where they watch for invaders to enter your body so they can destroy them. Eosinophil cells contain small sand-like granules that release a toxic protein to destroy and consume invading organisms. So, Eosinophils help your body defend itself from infections by parasites and organisms that grow on other cells. End quote. From clevelandclinic.org. Well, if at this point you said to yourself, it's looking like, it's almost double the usual rate of eosinophils, that seems like something we should look into. She might be trying to fight something off. If you said that, well, it would just be you and me. This patient was actually discharged from Hospital A with only, quote, a plan for a follow-up with her primary care physician, end quote, from Dr. C in the gang's letter. So yes, she left empty-handed, but full of eosinophils. So if you'd like, feel free to bespeckle the insides of your figure with polka dots to represent this new symptom. And please, don't put down your pen or whatnot just yet. I have great news. We're about to add some more touches. About 2 short days later, the dysesthesia spread from her feet and legs to her entire torso and both arms. So go on and fill all of that in. And afterwards, I'd like you to add a halo of lightning bolts around the head because this capped off with an excruciating headache. The compounded pain led our patient right back to the emergency room, but one belonging to a completely different hospital that we're going to call Hospital B. That's right, snitches get stitches. It was here our patient described her recent journey, both international and physical, and the staff did what a lot of other hospitals in America would do in this situation. They performed the exact same tests as before. And as such, you guessed it, the same results came back. Well, mostly the same anyway. Thanks to the situation being prolonged, the eosinophil numbers were high and even higher, 1050 per microliter. When once again, for reference, the range can be 0 to 450. So, my gifted business goose, please add more polka dots. And while you're at it, let's add some squares and triangles too, because these white blood cells were not alone this time around. Additional white blood cells joined in on the blitz, bumping her general white blood cell count to 13,300 per microliter. And if that sounds like a lot, it is. The reference range is a mere 4,200 to 10,200. So naturally, with signs pointing to something foreign being present, Hospital B prescribed medication that I would editorialize as focusing rather on her mental state. They offered lorazepam, which according to the Mayo Clinic can treat seizure disorders such as epilepsy, but it's mostly used as a short-term relief for anxiety, or anxiety caused by depression. So after popping these pills, they hooked her up to an intravenous helping of ketorolac, which is used for the short-term relief of moderately severe pain, and shouldn't be used for longer than 5 days. Okay, this situation was going on way longer than that, but here you go. Anyway, our patient was then sent home, where understandably, without any real answers, she wanted to take a fucking nap. But the burning pain from head to toe was preventing it, despite the ketorolac. It was then she decided to self-medicate, taking something called zolpidem, which was actually prescribed to another family member. Now, what the fuck is that? I'm so glad you asked because I did too. I gave it a Google. Quote, zolpidem is a fast-acting medication which usually begins to make you feel sleepy within the hour of taking it. It's considered to be a short-acting hypnotic, which means that while it may help you fall asleep quicker, it may not necessarily help you sleep longer, as its effects wear off fairly quickly. End quote. From sleepstation.org.uk. Well, my equally hypnotic business goose, the key word here is quickly. So needless to say, when our patient woke up confused, so confused and disoriented that she thought she had to pack for the vacation she just returned from, her roommate was a little freaked out. So please, if you will, cross out those lightning bolts and replace them with question marks to address all the befuddlement. And when you're done with that, let's hop in the roommate's car because we're heading on over to Massachusetts General Hospital, Boston, where doctors Joseph Zunt, Amy K. Barzak, and Daniel Y. Chang were about to make the goddamn breakthrough we've all been waiting for. For the third time, our patient regaled her story, but the medical staff's inquiry now included food. After noting the amount of sushi consumed and where, the team had a eureka moment. It just might be parasites. So after a new set of tests were performed, what did they find? Drumroll, please. Thank you in the back. Quote, microscopic examination of thick and thin blood smears showed no parasites. Blood samples were obtained for culture. Computed tomography of the head showed no acute intracranial abnormalities. End quote from Dr. C's letter. Yeah. What? My dear friends, there was nothing. Nothing. I know. I wasn't expecting that either, and neither was this team. Between the dysthesia, its incredibly quick progression, and the headaches and the confusion, all signs were pointing to some kind of infection. Or rather, infestation. It was then Dr. Zunt, yes, the Dr. Zunt, realized that they were probably looking at the wrong bodily fluid. They were testing her blood, but symptoms were very much affecting her nervous system. Y'all, he must have said, we need to check out her brain goo. And thus, the team performed a lumbar puncture, or a spinal tap, to draw out a sample of cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF, and if that internal bestie sounds familiar, hell yeah. You are right. We went into great detail about this magical elixir in episode 225, Cerebrospinal Fluid from Young Mice Improves Memory of Older Mice, and this is what kids smell like, apparently. What a fucking day that was. Have a listen if you haven't. In the meantime, let's talk about what was found floating around this fluid which surrounds our spinal cord and brain. When the results came in, I can only assume the Zunt's jaw dropped. The CSF showed 694 white blood cells per microliter. And for context, the average range is 0 to 5. This was 694. And 8% of those cells were MI6 agents just trying to kill whatever was present. So, what the hell was present? Well, nothing that could be seen with the naked eye, which is actually very much unlike so many other parasite episodes we've covered. No worms, no larva was seen. Instead, for the first time ever on this show, a parasite was discovered through the detection of genetic material. And that's it. Bits of foreign DNA were found in her brain goo, and that DNA belonged to A. cantonensis, which also goes by the horrible name of rat lungworm, a tiny son of a bitch that calls Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands, including Hawaii, home. And while you draw tiny worms in the head of your figure, I'll quickly go over the life cycle of this thing and how in the holy hell it ended up, accidentally, in a human host. Like the name suggests, the miracle of life begins in the lungs of a rat, where after an orgy, the worms lay their eggs. Now, why the lungs, you are probably asking? Well, that's so the rat coughs up the eggs and then swallows them, of course. This is so they end up in the digestive system where they actually survive and are pooped out. If all goes according to plan, a snail or a slug comes by, smearing itself in that poop, ingesting it and the eggs, and when inside the secondary host, they hatch, they grow and mature. And again, if all goes right, another rat comes along and eats that snail or that slug, which is now a piñata full of worms ready to get their freak on. Once inside the rat, they move their way into the lungs, where they have their key party and lay eggs. The cycle continues, and this is the world we live in. Now, on occasion, that snail or slug isn't consumed by a rat. Sometimes it's another mollusk that we humans eat. As so wonderfully reported by the aptly named Pandora Dewan of LiveScience.com, shellfish, including land crabs and freshwater prawns, may also become contaminated if they eat an infected slug or snail. Hell, even if a raw vegetable has been contaminated with the slime of a sickly snail and eaten, people can also become infected. When those babies hatch inside us rather than a rat, well, they get a bit confused and just wander, sometimes heading north to the head. In some non-rat lab animals, this can happen within 4 hours of ingestion. That's it. According to the CDC, in the human brain, the rat lungworm can trigger all the stuff we heard about. Headaches, a stiff neck, vomiting, confusion, tingling or burning sensations, and eventually, seizures and vision problems. Thankfully, it didn't come to that stage, but fuck, we were getting pretty close. Which brings me back to our patient. And I have great news. For real this time. She was given a 14-day course anti-parasitic medication and a steroid to bring down the inflammation in the old nervous system. After being watched for 6 days, she was doing great, and she was discharged from Massachusetts General Hospital, Boston, to complete the course on her own. And today, she's totally fine. Physically. After the break, we all make whoopsie daisies like eating undercooked food or way too much cholesterol. So much so that it seeps out of your skin. And that's ahead. So please, stay tuned.
Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
They make the sound by vigorously rubbing their penis on their abdomen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Then at night, they come out and crawl around your face and mate with each other.
Oh.
But
Victoria,
get this.
I would like to sleep tonight. As naturalists, let's face it, we find something dead, we go and we poke it with a stick. I did that with the deer like 3 weeks ago.
As you do. Rachel, no. You weren't paying attention. Blood and mucus.
Oh, right. Sorry.
All right, this episode is going off the rails.
This is the quality content
absolutely.
people come here for. Strange by Nature is an award-winning science-based podcast where we have a lot of fun. We hope you'll stop on by and find us wherever you get your podcast.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. We are so back. And my friends, butter is no simple thing. I was just going to dive right into telling you about a Florida man's completely avoidable medical mishap, but while researching, I stumbled into the wonderfully slippery world of butter, and I just had to smear some fun facts on you about it. Now, I'm not fucking kidding when I say there can be an entire podcast dedicated to this stuff, so please, butter enthusiasts, don't come at me with your churners demanding more. Right now, I'm only going to stick, no pun intended, to some tasty fun facts as an intro to this next story. As reported by butter lover Karina Finn for Epicurious, all butter is made up of some ratio of butterfat, water, and milk solids, and exact percentages of fat, water, and non-fat solids depend on the diet and lifestyle of the cows that produce the milk used to make it. Grass-fed cows eat grass, but some commercial dairy farms feed their cows on other things, like corn and soy. End quote. And boy howdy, if you think a cow's diet could be a contentious topic, wait till you hear about the American versus European butter conversation. Continuing from Karina's article titled, "The Real Difference Between European and American Butter," quote, "The USDA defines butter as having at least 80% fat, while the EU defines butter as having between 82 and 90% butter fat and a maximum of 16% water. The higher butterfat percentage in European butter is one of the main reasons why many consider butters from across the pond to be superior to those produced in the US. It's better for baking, but it also creates a richer flavor and texture, even if all you're doing is smearing your butter on bread. On the other hand, butter with a higher fat percentage is more expensive to make and more expensive for the consumer. While there's no penalty for going over the 80% butterfat limit, craft butters in the US can theoretically be penalized by the USDA for flavor variations caused by a less standardized process. USDA grade AA butter must be made from sweet cream of low natural acid. Sam Barton, a senior food technologist at Organic Valley, says that this can lead to artisanal butters produced in the US to be classified as defective for having the tangy, grassy flavors that are valued in Europe, while American butters are downgraded for having a pronounced feed flavor. The best French butter intentionally tastes like what French cows eat. End quote. My friends, this is riveting drama. And I have to say, now that we know the fatty deliciousness of European butter, it's probably a good thing this Florida man was in Florida and not France during his 8-month adventure with the fad called the carnivore diet. A craze the old wiki defines as a high-protein fad diet in which only animal products such as meat, eggs, and dairy are consumed. The trend really took off in 2018 when it was promoted on the old socials by former orthopedic surgeon Sean Baker, who wrote a book aptly called The Carnivore Diet. Now, if you said to yourself, hold on now, do you really mean there's like no leafy greens in sight for folks who do this kind of thing? There's no carrots, potato, nor a bean anywhere? Like, such a lack in dietary fiber probably leads to a vitamin deficiency or an increase in risk of diseases, right? Also, how often do they shit? Well, great questions, my plump business goose. Now, I didn't look up how often folks on the carnivore diet crap because I don't need that in my head. Feel free to do that on your own time. But what I can tell you is yes, ain't no veggies here. And yes, a participant could find themselves in a bit of a non-edible pickle if on this diet for an extended period. Like this fucking guy. Let's get into it. Join me, will you, at the Tampa General Hospital, where a man was directed to the cardiology department after the medical staff here took one look at the palms of his hands. And if you'd like to see what they saw, and I know you do, head on over to our social media stuffs and tap on today's post. I'll give you a second. Yeah, my friends, bursting forth from the creases in his palms and fingers are a yellow substance. And you don't have to be into astrology to read the signs that this isn't good. Although not in any pain, our 40-year-old male patient was examined head to toe by doctors Konstantinos Marmagkiolis, Jamie Caballero, and Cesar Ilaiscu, and they found the same symptom along the soles of his feet and coming from the fleshy part of his elbows. Needless to say, they had some questions. First, it was revealed that this condition began 3 weeks ago, and it became so progressively worse over time it even alarmed a Florida man enough to seek help. Second, an inquiry into his diet revealed even more shocking stuff. According to the study, titled Yellowish Nodules on a Man Consuming a Carnivore Diet, for 8 months, our patient was a dedicated follower of said diet. His daily and weekly routine, again for 8 months, included, quote, a high intake of fats consisting of 6 to 9 pounds of cheese, sticks of butter, and additional fat incorporated into his daily hamburgers, end quote. Now, I think I know what you're thinking, and it's probably along the lines of, Jesus H. Crisco. But get this, my astonished friends, God only knows what he was doing prior, because he told the medical staff that he had been actually feeling better, that he'd lost some weight, and had, quote, increasing energy and improved mental clarity, end quote. I love that last part. Yeah, he's right as rain, except for the nodules growing out of his body, which we will get into in a minute, lucky us. But let's quickly talk about some test results. As reported by the great Ed Cara of Gizmodo.com, the doctors found that his cholesterol level exceeded 1,000 milligrams per deciliter. And if that sounds like a high number for this kind of thing, holy shit, you are right. For context, blood cholesterol should be less than 200 milligrams per deciliter. This is 1,000. And generally, high cholesterol starts at 240. So, if you're wondering what might happen to the additional 800 or so milligrams crammed into this guy's bloodstream, don't worry, I've got you. Less excessive amounts of cholesterol and other fats in our bloodstream are taken away by the stars of today's show, white blood cells, but not eosinophils. These are called macrophages. When this process is overloaded, the macrophages turn into what's called foam cells that literally do exactly what you're imagining right now. They kind of just blow up like pufferfish. And when they do so, it's these bloated cells that form the nodules that erupt out of the skin. They want to save your life so hard that they push their carcasses out of you any way that they can. And in this case, it's through the skin. This condition actually has a name. Xanthlasma. Yeah, he's not the first person this happened to. But boy howdy, it is probably one of the most pronounced cases because generally, for an average case, these deposits appear on or by the corners of your eyelids next to your nose, likely because the blood vessels here weaken over time due to blinking. But they can appear anywhere, and this particular case very much highlights that fact. And I have more good news. The nodules don't go away on their own. Oh no. According to clevelandclinic.org, here are your options. Or this guy's options anyway. Quote, a xanthlasma, it's hard to say, a xanthlasma, or nodule, doesn't go away without treatment. Instead, it stays the same size or gets bigger. You can't pop or squeeze a xanthlasma like a pimple, and products you can buy without a prescription and use on your own could burn your skin, so it's best to see your healthcare provider instead. Your provider will most likely want to use liquid nitrogen cryotherapy as a first-choice removal method, end quote. Well, if there's no liquid nitrogen around, they could also resort to surgery with extreme heat. I wonder if that actually smells good after a while. Anyway, or they could use a chemical peel. As to this story, there was no follow-up if our Florida man chose any of these. But to him, I say Godspeed. I have a feeling we might hear about him again. Yeah, and thank you for listening, rating, subscribing, telling your friends about, that lady. And how she went to Bangkok and Japan and Hawaii, and just the next time they bring up their vacation, bring up this vacation, just like really get it into their head. No pun intended. Then just bring up the Florida guy and his hands. Show them the photo. Yeah. Like after your friend orders a burger. Okay. And a belated thanks to the folks over at Airwave Media, the podcast network to which WTI belongs. If you love this show, and you do, you love the other podcasts in this family. And please, stay interesting.